Hello everybody, and welcome to Yoshi-1 Kenobi's fastest aggressive deck on Historic. Today we will be talking about Mox Weenies. Now what is this? Well, a year and a half ago, one of the top decks was White Weenies, where you play a bunch of white 2-powered creatures for 1, and then you play powerful creatures that boost the rest of your team. It's a strategy that's been in Magic since the dawn of time, well, since White Weenies came out. And today I'm going to be putting an interesting spin on it. So, in Historic, we have this very powerful mana accelerator called Mox Amber. It's a legendary artifact for 0. It adds 1 mana of any color among legendary creatures or planeswalkers you control. So, it's ramp as long as you control a legendary creature. Well, since the addition of Jumpstart, we've gotten the very powerful Isamaru, Hound of Konda, which is a 2-2 for 1, exactly the type of card that we want to play. Now, typically it would look like a downside that it's a legendary creature, because you can't have 2 of those in play. But what we're going to be using is the fact that it's a legendary creature allows us to potentially play a turn 1 Mox Amber, which allows us to have 2 mana from turn 1, which is extremely powerful, as we've seen with Llanowar Elves, except this is even stronger. So, to make this work, we need also another legendary creature for 1 mana. Thankfully, we have Rhys, the Redeemed, that was released with one of the commanders that we could use for Brawl. So it's a legendary 1-1 for white, for all purposes of this deck. And it also has some synergies with tokens, which can come up. I would have preferred a 2-powered 1-drop, but beggars can be choosers. We need at least 6 copies of 1-drops to make Mox and Amber reasonable. So let's go over the list. We're playing a ton of 1-drops. So we're playing the 3 Isamarus, the 3 Rhys, we're playing 4 copies of Venerable Knights, and 4 copies of Dauntless Bodyguards to go with the Knight synergies. We're playing 2 copies of Legion's Landing. And these are our 1-drops, which make for 16 1-drops, which is pretty good. Then we're playing 4 copies of Adanto Vanguard, because it's a 3-powered 2-drop that can survive through removal with its indestructible ability. We're playing 3 copies of Talia, because it's a legendary creature, so it's a backup whenever we have Mox. Note that you must play the Mox before the Talia, because otherwise the Mox is going to cost you 1 mana, and we don't want that. But Talia is also very powerful on its own. It's a 2-powered first striker, but the main ability is that it prevents your opponent from casting board wipes on turn or removal spells with the non-creature spells cost 1 more to cast. And then we have the traditional White Weenies package. We have the History of Benalia, which is extremely powerful on its own or with other copies. Also synergizes with the Rhys doubling token ability. We have Benalish Marshall, which is a good payoff for playing only white mana in our deck, and it boosts our team. It's a knight, it's a 3/3 for 3, just very solid overall. We play 2 copies of Unbreakable Formation as defense against control decks, and also in those grindy aggro matchups, it allows you to make your creatures have a free attack with the Indestructible. The +1/+1 counter is really relevant. It does a lot of stuff for 3 mana, good inclusion in this deck, but we don't want to draw too many copies, so we're playing 2 of those. And we're playing Venerated Loxodon, because it's a 4/4 that you can cheat out fairly early. It powers up all your creatures. Theoretically, with this deck, we can play 2 1-drops on turn 1 if we have Isamaru, Mox Amber, and another 1-drop. And then on turn 2, we play another Plains, and we can play a Venerated Loxodon on turn 2. And if we have more 1-drops, we can play them. If we have the ideal draw, we could theoretically go Isamaru, Mox Amber, Dauntless Bodyguard, turn to Legion's Landing, Venerable Knight, Venerated Loxodon, and everything. And you have 6 creatures on the board for turn 2. Now, of course, you need precisely 5 1-drops Loxodon and 2 Plains, and a Mox Amber, which I think you need to be, so 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. You need 9 cards on turn 2, so you need to be on the draw. But still, you can still play a lot of aggressive cards. It just shows you how fast this deck can come out. And I think it's definitely one of the front runners for fastest deck in the Historic. Now, let's go and see it in action. And we're playing against 10k or 10k. And we have the double 1-drop into turn 2 History of Benalia. This is exactly what the deck wants to do. So we get Isamaru, Mox Amber, Rhys. Beat that opponent. We will be pummeling you for 3 on turn 2. With a History of Benalia to follow it up. And our opponent is trying to match our ramp. So we get a History of Benalia, making a token. They're just a little bit short of being able to cast that Venerated Loxodon on turn 2. Our opponent appears to be playing mono green Stompy. Ooh, L's! So it's mono green L's that we're playing against. Is that an elf? That's an elf. Interesting. We definitely want to play the Loxodon for full value here. So I'll take in our 2 points of free damage. We will activate Rhys. To make a token. And we will cast the Venerated Loxodon for full value. And end the turn. If we draw land, we also get to activate 3, 4, 5. We also get to activate Rhys's token doubling ability. I never noticed that Beast Whisperer was an elf. That's cool. Well, you can't block 3 powered creatures well, so that would be lethal, which means our opponent needs to block at least 1, probably with the Visionary. If I also put the Elf Warrior in front, then Beast Whisperer is just going to block. We gain nothing by attacking with the Elf token, so let's just pressure with the big stuff. We get in for 7. We have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. We can activate Rhys, make another token, and cast another Venerated Loxodon for full value. Almost full value. So not only did we get our fast opening with the double 1-drops into a turn 2 History of Benalia, but we're also making use of the Mox Ambers, of Rhys's ability to summon tokens, to feed stronger Venerated Loxodons. I should probably pay attention to what my opponent is doing, because there's a bunch of creatures that just showed up. The opponent has 4 blockers and resigns. And we win with the fastest deck in Historic. Mox Weenies. We're playing against K Easy. Okay, it's easy, if you say so. And we have a fairly good hand. We have Isamaru Legions landing turn 1 into Benalish Marshall, into Benalish Marshall. That Mox Amber really doing some work here. Our opponent playing a new Fancy Mountain. Always play the Amber first, in case they remove your creature with a shock out of nowhere. I don't care about the token as much. Maybe I should have played Rhys, because if they remove Isamaru, then I won't be able to play the Benalish Marshall next turn. Ooh, the Conspicuous Snoop. think I want to play the Benalish Marshall just to get an attack in. But the History of Benalia is so strong. Still, I think the attack is worth it. Five points of damage is quite a lot. Or getting rid of a conspicuous swoop is also pretty good. Ooh, Goblin Ringleader. Look at the top four, put all blah. Draw 4 cards. A 4-drop 2/2 that says draw 4 cards. I'd like to have sign me up for one of those. It's alright, because we'll get to attack in for 6. You might have the cards, but you don't have the time. Alright. Opponent is living life on the edge. War Chief. All goblins are cheap, but you only have one more. Did you choose wisely? You'll never know. Actually, we'll find out right now, because Benalish Marshall enters the battlefield, and we win again against Goblins. Mox Amber doing work with Isamaru, our favorite pet puppy. And our opponent is Foss is lost. And you're about to have lost. So you must be Foss. Alright, so we have a Mox Amber, History of Benalia, but we are missing a 1-drop. I don't think we can keep this. It's a little too slow. Now, of course, we have the Isamarus without the Mox, but we will keep this, since we can easily ship an Isamaru to the bottom of the deck, because we can't have 2 in play anyways. So let's go with the 2-powered 1-drop, followed by the Endanto Vanguard, followed by the turn 3 Legion's Landing into Venerated Loxodon shenanigans. And our opponent is playing Goblins. Ooh, that's also tempting. But we will go with the slower, more powerful move of just creating a massive board. Passing the turn. Go on, play your puny goblin. Probably Goblin Lord. Krenko would be a real pain now. Goblin Lord! With no attacks. And then we cast our Benalish Marshall, and we attack with everything. Get an extra land, which will enable us to play the Venerable Knight. Our opponent's down to 1. Krenko's actually imposing, but it's not backbreaking. Prospector. So now our opponent has access to lots of mana. And it has begun. The sacrificing 4 mana in order to summon. I'm really not sure what our opponent could do. Opponent needs a board wipe. Moxus. So put all creatures convert mana cost 5 or less from the top 6 cards on the battlefield. Alright. And their opponent gets a ton of goblins. Alright. Mox's Goblin Grandy doing grand stuff. Now Krenko can tap to summon 5 more goblins. That's a very impressive turn 3. Well, since we can, let's play a second copy of Benalish Marshall. making everything hard to kill. Unfortunately, we have no evasion. So we can just barely keep Krenko at bay. And we gain life off of our vampire with lifelink. But now the Gem Palm Incinerator is going to burn one of our Benalish Marshall. All goblins cost 2 less. Krenko Mob Boss. Ugh. Mob Boss creates a ton of tokens, which translate into a ton of mana from the Prospector. Mostly this is really cool. Hopefully we draw into a white shock, which I'm not sure if there's anything which we can draw. More goblins. More goblins, I say. Ringleader. Look at the top 4 cards, put all the goblins into your hand. Oh, and because of all the discounts, our opponent gets to make more goblins. So you can cast Siege Gang Commander for 2. Oh, cycle the Gem Pawn Incinerator. I'm kind of curious to see just how badly we get beaten up here. Because I don't think we have any way of winning. Siege Gang Commander. Our opponent's really just sacrificing 2 goblins to get 3 goblins. They're very small incremental advantages. And we know that our opponent will draw a mountain next turn. If we had a way to deal with Krenko... Are we dead? Yeah, we are dead. Oh, we are very dead. That deserves a nice. Alright. Finish us off. Yeah, we are very, very dead. Well, that was fun. Let's move on to the next one. We are playing against Milksteak K. Milksteak K. And we have a fair hand. Let's keep this. We get to Isamaru turn 1 into a Danto Vanguard on turn 2. Followed by probably History of Benalia, if the history serves me right. It's typically stronger than playing Marshall. And we're playing against Goblins. Ooh, we actually will get to turn 2 History of Benalia instead. Thanks to Isamaru. Such a nice pup. Opponent's playing Willy Goblin. Putting more goblins. Their opponent is at a scary place where they can play the new Mega Goblin next turn. And flood the board with some goblins. Opponent's thinking about doing something this turn. For our turn, I guess we can Adanto Vanguard into Venerated Loxodon. Seems pretty good. Also get a free attack in. Combat. Free attack. Could also Benalish Marshall into Venerated Loxodon. Might be a little stronger since we'll get the Benalia trigger next turn. I really should have played the Marshall first though. Yeah, let's go with Vanguard Loxodon. Let's stick with the original plan. Boom! Just in case our opponent has some kind of removal that he could play. Which Goblin does. There's the Cycling Goblin of Doom. Cards always feel more intimidating when you add of Doom at the end. Like Adanto Vanguard of Doom, Isamaru, Hound of Konda of Doom, Skirk, Prospector of Doom, Treasure of Doom. Goblin Warchief enters the battlefield. So our opponent appears to be starved on lands, but will manage by sacrificing goblins for mana. Still, there's only so much you can do. Eventually you're going to run out of cards. That's basically sacrificing a goblin to play the instigator gains you 1 mana. So you're playing 1 full card for 1 mana. Who would do that? Of course, adding the speed is typically worth it. And our opponent is facing a fairly deadly board here. Let's take the fairly deadly and make it really deadly. With Benalish Marshall, with some protection, attack with everything. Our creatures are much bigger than all of our opponent's creatures, so there is no reason not to swing at face with everything. And our opponent is down to 2, facing a very big board. But playing goblins, never underestimate the power of these little goblins, especially when there's a war chief in play. Krenko is not good enough. Although Krenko means that our opponent will get a bunch of mana from the Skirk Prospector. Still, that card is really scary. We swing with everything and absolutely everything. And that is good enough for game. We get our revenge against goblins. Against Matias. Or Matias. This can go so well in so many ways. Let's keep this. Simply because History of Benalia into History of Benalia into History of Benalia has been proven to do pretty good. When our opponent is playing white, good stuff too. It's okay, let's threaten our opponent by casting our Mox Amber. Daxos, Blessed by the Sun. Let's see who is the superior white deck. Oh, white-black. Vanishing Light, our history. Come on, target our Mox, target our Mox. Oh. Alright. Oh, we still got a token out of it. It's okay, because we have a lot more histories where that one came from. And we get a free attack. Thank you, Vigilance. Ooh, Veto. That is scary. Doubling all the damage. Healing like a boss. We can potentially Thalia Bodyguard Benalia. Thalia Bodyguard Venerated Loxodon. As long as we don't have anything legendary in play. Their option is just to cast the History of Benalia, which is not bad. I mean, we'll get... Yeah, let's just go with History of Benalia. We don't have a good attack, so we'll pass the turn. Opponent still cannot activate Veto, but we will get drained for a ton. Double the damage. Ooh, Benalish Marshall. Alright, so we get to Benalish Marshall, and we get to also cast Thalia. Let's go Thalia. We now have a legendary creature. Pay for what? Oh no, that's not gonna work. I forgot. Thalia counter synergizes with the Mox Ambers. I think we are basically dead. Well, we gotta cast our Dauntless Bodyguard. Let's protect one of these. Now our opponent has 1, 2, 3, 4 points of free damage. 5, 6, 7 with a creature. I think we get to cast the Venerated Loxodon. Need to make sure we have enough blockers. That seems right. Yeah, that one's the protected one. Don't want to use the protected one. I'll resolve. Let's pass a turn. I guess we will let one more point of damage through. A Mega Pride Mate. Heal for 1, drain for 1. One, two, three, 4. I think we might win. Because that's 2 points of damage. 3 points of damage, 4 points of damage. Anytime a creature enters the battlefield, that's an extra 1. Which means we go down to 1 if we cast our Benalish Marshall. The opponent really only has 2 lifelinkers. Alright. Well, we cast the Benalish Marshall. We get drained for 1. And we attack with everything. I'm not sure it's enough, actually. Because we'll only get 4 attacks through, and our opponent will lifelink for 2. So as long as the Dauntless Bodyguard gets blocked, our opponent will live, and our opponent will... Oh no, our opponent needs to block with Veto. I will lose to the Healer's Hawk attack next turn. Because we're attacking for 19, our opponent's healing for... Oh, we're just attacking for 14. I should just let the combat go through. Heal for 2. Oh, but Vito's no longer on the battlefield. so we will live with 1. Man, this is a complex game, math-wise. And our opponent gained a bunch of luck. Ah! And our opponent top decked the Vito. No, that's so unfair. Ah! All that ruined math for nothing. Alright. I hope you've enjoyed this video. Don't forget to subscribe by clicking the Yoshi icon at the right of your screen. It doesn't cost you any mana, and it greatly helps to support this channel and keep the awesome videos coming.